2020. And we are here live every weekday morning at 7:30-ish Pacific time with your morning political news and headlines to get your day started right. And today, this morning, I'd like to do something a little different. I'd like to talk to you all about why Hillary Clinton lost the 2016 presidential election and talk about why that matters as we go into 2020, because I think we need to understand what contributed to Hillary Clinton's loss, which was an unusual loss if we are to adequately respond to the 2020 election. Groovy John starting off asking, did Hillary lose because she didn't go to Wisconsin, Michigan, etc.? Let's talk about that and get into it, because I think it's a little more complicated than people give it credit for. So Hillary Clinton, of course, won the 2016 presidential election by nearly 3 million votes and lost in the Electoral College in 3 states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And I'd like to talk about why exactly that is. And right off the bat, I think very important to note is that exit poll data from 2016 showed that Hillary Clinton won states like North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Florida, states that she went on to lose in computerized vote counts. So that's pretty alarming. And when people hear that, they think, wow, if she won those states in the exit poll data, how did she go on to lose in the computerized vote counts? And I think it's very important to note that exit poll data is the gold standard around the world on how to really assess who is going to be the victor in any elected race. And when those numbers came out, they are good numbers. So let's go look at why the exit poll data didn't line up with what the eventual computerized tallies would show. So North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Florida, as we know, 2 of those states, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, ended up being decided by very, very small margins. So what was going on in 2016 and is still going on is something called voter purges, an interstate voter cross-check system led by mostly Republican secretaries of state, was pairing names of people in different states and then saying that those people had either moved out of state or died, which is one of the legitimate functions of the voter cross-check system, to make sure that people who have passed away are purged from the rolls, or who have moved out of state have been purged from their state's voter rolls. The problem is that the way that they were matching names was that they were looking at the first and the last name and disregarding the middle initial, the date of birth, and all other contextual information that might give you some information about the voter and indicate that they are not the same person. So Joe Brown in Wisconsin is the same Joe Brown in Michigan, regardless of whether or not their middle initial is the same or their date of birth is different. So that voter was getting purged from the voter roll. Now, that voter will show up to the polls on election day, and they will try to cast a ballot. And the person working that voting precinct will say, your name is not on the voter rolls, and give that voter a provisional ballot. In 2016, 3 million valid, legal, provisional ballots were cast because of this voter purge, and those ballots did not get counted. So it stands to reason that those people were leaving the polling locations and telling exit pollers in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Florida, North Carolina, that they voted for Hillary Clinton, and it would account for her victory in those states in the exit poll data. And then those votes were not getting counted, which is why they did not show up in the computerized vote counts, which also lines up with the exit poll data that we saw, which showed that Hillary Clinton not only won those states, but won those states outside of the margin of error, scientific error. Carmen says, good morning, Alex. Christopher Drago says, good morning. Groovy John, did Hillary lose because she didn't go to Wisconsin and Michigan? So to your point, Groovy, it looks like people may have voted for her in states like Wisconsin, Florida, Pennsylvania, and North Carolina, but those votes were not being counted because they were provisional ballots, and those voters had been purged from the rolls. Use Your Blinker says, damn, bro, that was 4 years ago. Get over it. And I think history is important. Use your blinker and change lanes to a different channel if you don't like it. So So that's the first issue, is this voter cross-check system, which, by the way, is still ongoing. So if you are a voter in the United States, regardless of your partisanship, regardless of whether you're a red or blue, Republican or Democrat or independent or in the middle, everyone who intends to or desires to vote in the United States, especially in states with Republican secretaries of state, I should add, should go ahead and check their voter registration. You can do it at iwillvote.com. And make sure that you're registered, and not only that your proper address is on file. Because if not, it may be that you have been purged from the voter rolls erroneously. I'm not even trying to imply that this is done insidiously, but it is happening erroneously. And 12 million people purged from the 2016 voter rolls. It happened in 2018. It's happening now, especially in states like Georgia. And Christopher Drigger says this is exactly why we need to get rid of all computerized voting. I think that one of the reasons that Donald Trump is so afraid of vote by mail is because that's paper ballots. But that is just conjecture, just an opinion, full disclosure. Now, if we're going to look at the numbers out of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, let's also talk about Jill Stein, who is the third-party candidate that ran for the Green Party in 2016. And the vote margins in 2016. In Michigan, Jill Stein won 51,463 votes. Donald Trump won, Donald Trump's margin of victory in Michigan was 10,000 votes over Hillary Clinton. So 51,000 votes for Stein. It stands to reason that had those 51 votes not gone to Stein and gone to Hillary Clinton instead, then Hillary Clinton would have easily won that state. In Pennsylvania, Jill Stein won 49,678 votes. In Pennsylvania, Donald Trump's margin of victory over Hillary Clinton was 46,765 votes. In Wisconsin, Jill Stein won 31,000 votes, and Donald Trump's margin of victory was 22,177 votes. So in each of these crucial battleground states, the third-party candidate picked off almost the exact amount of votes that Hillary Clinton would have needed to win in that state, regardless of the voter purges that had invalidated 3 million ballots that may have gone to her. So very important for Democrats who are concerned about the 2020 election to understand it. Due to gerrymandering, in most states, Democrats need to make up a 5 to 7 point differential. That Republicans have a electoral advantage because of gerrymandering and the redistricting of those states to allocate votes, electoral votes, to the presidential victor based on the location. So Democrats have an uphill battle, and it's clear that third-party votes were picked off, and maybe that's because people felt like Hillary Clinton was going to win, so they didn't want to vote for her, or they didn't turn out for her. But in either case, Jill Stein won just the exact amount of votes needed to pick off a victory for Trump in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. So that is sort of in keeping with a long history of oppressive bills and laws that also restrict people from voting, especially in states like Wisconsin. So the studies in Wisconsin show, again, Trump won Wisconsin by 22,000 votes. In Wisconsin in 2016, studies were done that racist voter ID laws actually held back 200,000 people. They suppressed 200,000 African American votes, particularly in Wisconsin, due to racist voter ID laws that prohibited people from voting in Wisconsin. And those laws were passed in January or February of 2016, just ahead of the 2016 election, that made it more prohibitive for people to vote. And so 200,000 votes were suppressed due to those voter ID laws in Wisconsin. Trump's margin of victory was 22,177 votes. Could we stand to reason that Hillary Clinton could have made up the 22,000 votes that she needed out of those 200,000 suppressed votes? Good morning, Pablo de la Hoya. Good morning, Ed McC. Good morning, Christopher Drago. Good morning, everybody. So we're talking about the 2016 election and why Hillary Clinton lost, because I think it's important to understand the dynamics of electoral of elections in the United States, especially in the current day and time, if we want to understand what we're getting into ahead of the 2020 election. So thank you so much for joining this morning. That was just a brief overview of the major 2016 problems. And that doesn't even take into account Jim Comey's letter to Congress on October 26th of 2016, which, by the way, Nate Silver of 538 released some strong evidence that late deciding voters broke strongly against Hillary Clinton in swing states, enough to cost her Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania right after Comey's letter. And that if the election were held the day before Comey's letter, that Hillary Clinton would be president today. So things to look out for in October are the big October surprise that Donald Trump is talking about, whether it's deceptively saying that he's got a vaccine or something else anti-Biden. And as we know, Donald Trump was impeached just late last year in the House because of his attempts to solicit a foreign country to try and launch phony investigations against Joe Biden to do basically the same thing that he tried to do to Hillary Clinton. Trumpdashia, nasty woman, truth on fire, says those are today's problems, but doubled. Trump will try anything again. And I think that we see that now. He's launched a full-on assault on vote-by-mail systems, trying to insinuate and expressly say that they promote fraud, which the studies show that they do not. There are very, very rare instances of voter fraud in the United States, especially vote-by-mail fraud. It's a small fraction of a percentage point. And out of hundreds of millions of vote-by-mail ballots cast, we've had less than, I think, 38 instances of voter impersonation. So that is sort of the problems going in. And there's going to be an assault on vote by mail, and now Trump is encouraging his voters to vote twice, and he's done it more than once now in multiple states, saying vote twice, vote by mail, and then go in person and vote twice, either to kind of sully cast doubt over the election and muddy the waters a bit and make it so chaotic that there is not a clear victor and he gets to dig his heels in and stay in the White House, or because he gets to have a victory on election night because of double votes, and then coast in that way, regardless of the validity or the legitimacy of it. Because as we know, he will use that messaging and try to drive that home. He's a messaging guy. He enjoys the messaging. I won, and then he'll dig his heels in and keep repeating it until we all bow down. Groovy John says Trump's tactics remind me of dictator Manuel Noriega. He's desperate. Indeed, I think so too. I think that's pretty apparent in some of the wild rhetoric that's coming out of the president, unprecedented rhetoric coming out of the president. So if you're not registered to vote, visit iwillvote.com. Make sure that your current address is on file. That's regardless of whether you're a red or blue, Democrat or Republican. Every American should have easy, safe access to voting in America. It's one of the cornerstones of American democracy. So thank you so much for joining the AM Report with Alex Mahajer for HAPS News, the network of now. We are live every weekday morning at 7:30-ish. And if you like this content and enjoyed this journalism, please consider buying me a cup of coffee. Visit haps.tv/@Alex Mahajer.